Simsport Racing for the resumption of GT4 Season 2, Round 4 here at Circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, the official voice of Simsport Racing, and once again joined by one of the founders of Simsport Racing, Steve Proudly, joins me in the virtual commentary box. Good evening, Steve. How are you, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you very much, Alex, and looking forward to Zandvoort, one of my favourite tracks, and the GT4s will go well round here, although we're racing in the evening tonight. I think local server time is 8 o'clock and temperatures will be around about 13 degrees, so a bit of an extra challenge for the drivers tonight.
Yep, so once again, let's have a look at the points from, that's round 2 from Barcelona, which had Daniel Jim win it. I know that we did have round 3 not too long ago. If memory serves me correctly, my brain's a bit scrambled. I think everyone's been a bit scrambled, including Steve's. But let's have a look at the championship table. Stephen Haley leads by just one single solitary point in his Aston Martin 4 Team Simply Race. Daniel Jim is in second ahead of Michael Haffenden, Tim Fulbrook and Angus Martin, the trio of HF Impala BMW M4s rounding out the top 5. Alan Garland, who returned to us here at Simsport after a notable hiatus, is in 6th, just 2 points ahead of the inaugural Season 1 champion Aaron Walker in the number 1 Aston. Regan Mitchell, Ollie Gill and Srijan Milasinovic round out the top 10 positions. Milasinovic not opting to race with us this evening. He has actually signed out. Simply Race lead the way in the Teams Championship, just 8 points ahead of HF Impala A, which has both Haffenden and Fulbrook. Team Fordzilla round out the top 3 ahead of Mercado Racing and Express Team UK. Good to see that Andrew Fife is with us at the moment. Family member of Cameron. Got your buckets and spades? Well, we are by the sea, the North Sea coast, that is. Mark Randenbury will lead the field from the reverse grid pole position in the Audi R8 ahead of Reese Wiggin, Rich Smith, Christian Hill, Richard Emery, Richard Pixley, Aaron Martin Pilkington, Adam Isolovic, Ollie Gill, Mark Neutelings. Cameron Fife starts 11th ahead of Ranjith Kelsey, Regan Mitchell, John Agius and Aaron Walker round up the top 15 ahead of Daniel Jim, Dominic Tower, Tim Fulbrook, Stephen Haley, Angus Martin, Charlie Crossland, Michael Haffenden. Milasinovic was due to start in 23rd, but that will be Steen Passpont in the Janetta, who will start 23rd ahead of Gavin Utley, Andrew Ambro, Martin Foster, Reese Hodges, Paul Lindsay, Ginny Mahacek and also Yannick Müller, who is one of the newest drivers to join the series, down in what will be 30th position. So quite a lot of drivers in this grid, Steve, and that's going to provide one hell of a 45-minute reverse grid race here at the just off the sands of the North Sea coast.
Yeah, definitely. It all makes for very interesting racing. Obviously, with the reverse grid, the faster drivers are usually starting at the back. So the more cars on the grid, the more work those boys have got to do. But it definitely makes for good racing, does Zandvoort. It rewards the brave as well with the last turn onto the start-finish straight. If you can get that line just right, you can hold the throttle flat and get a good run back into T1. But yeah, it's, like I say, it's one of my favourite tracks, and when it gets rubbered in, it makes for some good racing.
Yep, so with corners such as Tarzan, which is effectively turn 1 right-hand hairpin, very bumpy going into Tarzan. Then you've got the likes of Gerlach, Bocht, Hunsrug, Hugentholz, Rob Slaughtermacher, Schieflach, which is one of the most fearsome blind apex corners. You think Paddock Hill Bend is a tricky one to negotiate. Try Schieflach at full pelt in a GT3 or a GT4 car. You've also got the S's, which were known previously as the Audi S's, and the last and final corner, the 15th turn here at the circuit, which in duration is 4.25 kilometers, 2.646 miles, is named after the famed Arie Luijendijk, as we now get things underway on the rolling lap. Now, Steve, you say that you love this track. What do you love about it? Because it is old school from my perspective, and it really does test the drivers, and it really does reward, as you say, the bravest of the brave.
I think it's exactly that. It's reasonably technical, even from the turn that we're seeing Mark Raddenbury going around now. You've got to get that line just right so you can get the drive along, inverted commas, the straight, because this section that they're heading onto now in the bottom right screen, that is all flat, absolutely flat out, until you come to the corner with you compared to Paddock Hill there. You're usually dropping it down to sort of third, fourth gear there, and absolutely you turn it in and it's blind, but you just it's flat. You hold it flat through there and run a little wide onto the rumble strip, just trying to keep it out the gravel to get maximum speed. And it is one of those tracks that practice is rewarded with great lap times, and the lads have been practicing hard. They've all been putting lots and lots of time into it. So I don't think we're going to be disappointed this evening. I'm hoping they'll get through the first few turns all clean, and then the boys will put the racecraft to practice and start battling their way through, and the boys at the front will just try and keep the noses clean and maintain as high a position as possible.
Now, in terms of practice, obviously, Steve, I know that you got your keen eye, as always, on those timing screens for us here at Simsport Racing. who have been the danger drivers for this round? I think we mentioned Daniel Jim when we were having this conversation just before we went on air. But who else has really been impressing you around here at Zandvoort?
I think, to be fair, I mean, we've got Charlie Crossland, who's been practicing in various cars just to get a comparison. I mean, he was doing some awesome times in the Porsche Cayman. He's jumped back in the KTM and he's sort of saying it's not quite as quick. But I said to Cayman in Discord, said to Charlie in Discord earlier, I said, don't worry, buddy, you'll drag a good result out of it. You know, you're a quick driver. And it's all about consistency as much as it is lap times. Aaron Walker jumped on the server earlier on today, and he was sort of doing 44.5s with race fuel. So, you know, I mean, the fast boys, when they were doing hot laps without race fuel, were in the low 43s. But anyone, I think race pace will be in the 44s, up to 45s. As ever, we've got a real mixed ability grid, but just see the forming up 2 by 2 now to take the lights.
So they come out of the final corner. 45 minutes on the clock here at Circuit Zandvoort, just off the North Sea coast in the Netherlands. Wait for it, hold on to something and grab some popcorn and maybe a beer as we go green, green, green here. And there's already a clash between the two on the second row. That was Richard Emery and also Smith in the 76 as they filter their way through. And who is that going around the outside already, going into turn into Tarzan, as we've already had an incident going the mid part of the apex as one car towards the outside of the circuit, as we've had another turnaround, and that has gotten a bit messy coming out of Tarzan as they make their way to Hugenholtz for the first time. But Mark Brandenbury from the Express Team UK crew in the number 75 Audi keeping a hold of second position at the moment, but it looks like Mark Brandenbury has started to get away very, very well. Mark Brandenbury has started to get away early, but it looks like who is up front at the moment? It's changing all the time.
I think there's a little bit of an issue with the leaderboard at the moment, but it looked to me like that's Rich Smith out in the lead, and that might be Rhys Wiggins that's dropped into second place. I'm not quite sure. We'll get confirmation. It's Rhys Wiggins there, and I think it's Rich Smith out in the lead, and Mark Brandenbury's definitely down in fourth place.
Yeah, Rhys. Smith with the Banzai overtake round the outside, as we've got Adam Isalovic in one of the more brightly coloured cars on the grid itself, in the 111 Mercedes, chasing down the number 75 Audi of Mark Brandenbury, with Ollie Geel in the number 38 Porsche just behind. Let's have a look at this replay here. Now, this is coming back out onto the circuit, and that was literally 4 cars into one, did not go, and that looked like Angus Martin was at the tail end of that. It looks like one of the other HF Impalas were also involved, so to speak, but Haviland and Fulbrook running out the top 15 at the moment.
I think Charlie Crossland was involved in that incident as well. Sorry there, Alex, I think as well, with Daniel Jim, interestingly. I see Charlie Crossland's down in 21st now.
Yeah, so some of the cars, so let's have a look at this replay here. Another great angle from the guys here at Simply Race. A big thank you to Mike Yow. Now, this is the run down to Tarzan. So that looks to be, I think, Haffenden that was going up the inside, or going through into the middle there, past Angus Martin towards the outside, as Isalovic now up into fourth place, having got past Mark Brandenbury. Now the Mercedes again will show its credence. Now Mercedes have been very, very good around this circuit, both in the GT3 and a GT4 capacity when it comes to real life racing. As now we go to Daniel Jim in the Alma Reparto Corse. Oh, that's one of the Team Simply Race cars in the wall. And that would I think that might have been, now was that, I couldn't really catch the number, but that front clamshell bonnet looking very askew-if at the moment, and that is not Stephen Haley. I think that might be Aaron Walker.
24, that's Stephen Haley there. I've just gone through the shot.
Yeah, and there's Mark Neutlings with a rearranged front bumper. I think Charlie Crossland has had a moment too, because I did see a KTM actually go spinning the other way.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was Aaron Walker. He's now in the pits, as you can see on the leaderboard there. So yeah, unfortunate for Aaron. Not quite sure what sparked that incident, but yeah, he hit the wall pretty heavy there.
So hopefully we'll get a replay of that, as Richard Emery in the number 115 Audi with the nicely appropriated manga-style emoji cat on both door panels on that Audi. Some great liveries we've got here once again, but it looks like he's been closed in on by John Aegis. So it is one of the HF Impalas that were not too far behind. Oh, and yeah, there was a bit of contact there. So looks to be the right rear having contact on the back of Aaron Walker's car. So he's now in the pits, and that could be a significant amount of damage, as now Richard Emery is being closed in on by John Aegis, and also the number 47 of Ranjith Kelsey. Regan Mitchell, Michael Haffenden ran at the top 10. Right, we've got another replay here. Now, this is where you've got one of the cars up front, which is one of the HF Impala A crew, and that is the 862 of Tim Fulbrook. So it looked like Michael Haffenden was actually just behind him, and the contact between them caused Aaron Walker to go into the wall. Martin Neutling's also in the pits. Now, I did notice there was some front-end damage on that number 666 Mercedes there for the Dutch driver, and this is effectively his local circuit. But already we're into lap number 3, and Smith in the number 76 here, Steve, has already pulled a gap of nearly 3 seconds.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, Rich Smith, as I say, week in, week out, puts the practice in. He's not a slow driver. He's managed to get into the front very early on. His last lap was a 1:44.6, and that was probably a good half second at least faster than anybody else on the track. So he's definitely got the pace.
Oh, now we've just seen the back end of another incident which involved Neutlings, and that involved Aaron Walker as well. So Aaron Walker's been in the walls twice, it looks like, as one of the Astons goes off on the inside and then tags with one of the Ginettas, it looked like, in the approach into Hugenholt. So yeah, not been a great race for the defending champion.
It's all looking a bit scruffy, to be honest, as we see the incident there that put Aaron Walker into the barriers. Yeah, it's looking a bit scruffy from some of the drivers this evening. They just need to get their heads down, concentrate, and remember that there's another 39 minutes to go this race. The cars need to last.
But in the meantime here, Steve, is that look at Richard Pixley. He's up into 3rd place in the number 7 Ginetta, and he's only 3.2 seconds ahead of Reese Wiggin. But Adam Isalovic is actually closing him down. The gap between them just under 0.7 of a second, as we have got a yellow flag situation out on the circuit, which has now been retracted. So with 39 minutes and 5 seconds still to go, Rich Smith leads from Reese Wiggin, Richard Pixley, Adam Isalovic, Mark Raddenbury, Richard Emery, John Aegis, Ranjith Kelsey, Regan Mitchell and Michael Haffenden rounding at the top 10 positions, with teammate Tim Fulbrook about 0.8 of a second behind the 861 in 11th place. So, but this is a full-out sprint, and you can just see how much steering input Adam Isalovic is putting in here, Steve, and it's not easy here around at Zandvoort. You know, it's a a production-based vehicle in terms of the category, but also in many respects it's going to be quite interesting to see how these drivers combat, because also one of the biggest things with Zandvoort is that when the wind picks up, the sand comes across the track, and that can really cause problems, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. And as we were talking about at the beginning of the race, there's some of the high-speed corners where definitely that any sort of crosswind can affect the handling of the car dramatically. We've got Bliv AK in the chat saying Ginetta for the win. He's maybe not wrong, but I think Rich Smith's stretching his legs too much now. He's extended that gap to 3 seconds. The Ginetta is a good car around Zandvoort. I do like driving the Ginetta. It's not so fast down the straights, so Adam may get the run on Rich Pixley if he can get close enough down the straight, because that Merc will stretch its legs a little bit on the Ginetta. Yeah,
Emery's also closing on Raddenbury for 5 at the moment, and Aaron Walker has just put on the chat, "Oh dear, you win some, laugh out loud." So we're coming into a replay here, and that is Aegis on Emery there. A slight bit of tap between the two, and Aaron said that we need Mr. Haley to pull the rabbit out of the hat right now. We completely agree with you here in the virtual commentary box, Aaron. It's a real shame, obviously, with the amount of significant damage that his Aston Martin has just suffered. But Steve Haley, at the moment, I think we've just seen a little bit of a lag spike there, if I'm completely honest. One of the cars literally disappeared, and has decided, and that might be Michael Haffenden, if memory serves me correctly, from what I've just seen. So yeah, you can see the lag spike there quite significantly. It looks like the car's trying to drift through the corners, and that has just literally tagged him into Ollie Geel. And Haffenden's actually, as the 143 has just come onto the circuit. Now, what that is, Muller in the Audi, who's running in 12th place. So that's now going to put him into the clutches of Haley, Haffenden, and everyone else probably just behind. But that was really quite disconcerting sometimes, for those wondering who aren't familiar with sim racing, lag spikes do happen due to the internet connection that the drivers have with regards to their PCs, and that can cause sometimes problems, can't it, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. It can just cause a delay in information from the PC to the server, and the car that you're seeing on the screen maybe isn't actually where the car is in reality, and it can cause collisions. It can, as you say, it's very, very disconcerting. It's not great to race with. Usually we don't suffer from that sort of thing, but let's just see how the race goes on. I was just going to say the man on the move was Charlie Crossland, all the way back down in 21st, who had got the fastest lap on the last time round, but that's just been beaten again by Rich Smith, who's gone that bit faster again. So Rich Smith out in the lead is really looking to extend that gap, and he's looking, even at these early stages of the race, he's looking positive for the win if he can stay out of trouble.
Very true, as he's got a gap of 2.9 seconds over Reese Wiggin. Adam Isalovic rounding out the top three, as again that lag spike for Michael Haffenden is completely discombobulating, I think is the term I'm going to use here, because it's like literally 1 minute you see where the car is, and then all of a sudden you see the car going over to the side of the circuit. He's currently running in 15th ahead of HF Impala B with AMR Racing, his very own Angus Martin, as Daniel Jim, our winner back at Barcelona at round 2 when we had Mount Panorama just a couple of weeks before we came back. And a big thank you to everyone that has donated for with regards to the 12 hours of the Nürburgring that took place last Saturday, where we have raised close to our 100% target. We are at just over £3,900. So we will keep the Just Giving page out, keep that open for the meantime, but for those that have already donated, a big thank you for helping to raise money for such a great cause. And Steve, just looking back at that event, the praises that we got from so many people that watched the stream. We even got the praise of Jenson Button himself, with his team eventually taking P3 at the end of the race, if memory serves me correctly. He was very quick to sing our praises on Instagram, wasn't he?
It was indeed, yeah. It's really great when someone like Jenson Button shouts your community out, and he did that on Instagram and Twitter for us, and we really do appreciate that. And as you say, more importantly, I think we really appreciate the money that's been raised and everybody that's donated, and it made it all worthwhile. As difficult as it was no easy task to organise and to run, but it was well worth it. Thank you.
Yep. So we're on board with Daniel Jim in the number 71 Aston Martin. He's trying to chase down John Aegis, and just up ahead is the number 47 of Ranjiv Kelsey in the Porsche Cayman. As Kelsey has a moment that allows both Aegis and Jim to get past. So Jim up to 9th, Aegis up to 8th. And I wonder how far.
You said, Alex, this is the championship battle with a couple of rounds to go after tonight, so 3 including this one. You've got Daniel Jim in 10th, and I'm just looking down for Steve Haley, who's in 13th. So he's. Yeah. Obviously, Daniel Jim's, he just moved up one more place, so that's the battle. That's the battle for the championship. I think is those two guys.
Yeah, I completely concur with your observation there, Mr. Proudly. Who's setting the fastest times around the circuit at the moment? Because obviously I'm actually in the Netherlands. For those wondering where I am at the moment on my European tour at the minute. Who's setting the timing sheets alight at the moment?
Well, it's all changed again. We had Muller in car 143, set it last time, the lap before, but then Rich Smith's just snatched it back again with a 144.4. So Rich is still doing his best to stretch that lead out, which is just under 4 seconds ahead of Reese Wiggin. But more importantly, it's the guys that are coming through the field, like your Daniel Jims, your Stephen Haley's, he's going to make it very hard for them to catch him and even get back past him. I mean, having said that, Reese Wiggin is 6 seconds clear now of Adam Azalovic in 3rd. So again, he's in a bit of clear air, so he'll get his lap times in. So we might not even see such as Daniel Jim on the podium this evening like we do so many weeks previously.
Yeah, but keep an eye on this battle for 5th, 6th and 7th respectively. Mark Ranbury, then we got Emery, and then we got Mitchell rounding out the top 7 drivers. So it is Ingolstadt in 2 ways, and then 1 way in the form of a Falterbach with Mercedes, as there is Daniel Jim closing on the back bumper of John Aegis, and they're actually not too far away from this battle for 5th place between Roddenberry, Emery and Mitchell. And this is where things get really, really up close and personal here, Steve, because we're about to complete 1/3 of the race time distance as Regan Mitchell looking to split the two Audis by going up the middle. That is incredibly brave, and if he pulls that one off, no he doesn't, but Roddenberry gets passed by Emery for 5th place. Regan Mitchell now asserts himself and goes up the inside of the number 75, and all the while Aegis and Jim are just waiting in the wings. But look, oh no, clash between Aegis and Roddenberry, and that means that Roddenberry goes into the barriers there, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely what he didn't want to do there. But obviously Daniel Jim will take that and he'll move up a few more places. He's looking good. He's looking very good because, as you can see, there's 3 cars just in front as we watch a replay here.
Yeah. He touched the left rear corner of sorry, my brain's just completely gone there. Of Mark Roddenberry, Roddenberry's now dropped down to 12th position. Tim Fulbrook, in the meantime, for HF Impala, now up into 8th place as a result of that contretemps. Well, look at Steve Haley. He's actually going with Miller in the number 143 Audi, and that is the battle for the last position in the top 10. So Steve Haley trying to get a wriggle on here and trying to do the best he can for the Simply Race team.
Yeah, he's going to find it difficult if Muller just hits his apexes and gets those braking points right, because it's not easy to pass around here. And I think the Audi and the Aston will be reasonably well matched, although I think the Aston can probably got the edge on handling, as we see Steve Haley put it up the inside. That's a position gained. Good move from Steve, that.
Yeah, very nicely timed there. So the number 24 Aston Martin from the Simply Race Racing team, a new team for this championship. So as Aaron Walker said on the YouTube channel a bit earlier on, doing the business, as Daniel Parker says, Pixley doing it for the Yorkshire manufacturer. Haha. Well, Janetta is based in Yorkshire. Yes, that is very, very much correct there, if I remember correctly there, Steve. A very, very proud British manufacturer who do provide fantastic race cars. Just ask Sarah Moore, who's raced in G55 GT4s in Britcar herself. And she's currently running in the Porsche Sprint GP Championship with Into Racing in the Porsche Cayman 718. She's racing at Croft this weekend. So, Sarah, from everyone here at Simsport Racing, all the very, very best of luck. As Jim goes up the inside and clashes doors with Emery in the 135 Audi going through Tarzan. That could have been so much worse than it actually looked there, Steve.
Yeah, the door was open, but not for someone to come from that far back. I don't think Rich was going for the apex there and just slammed the door shut, but he found an Aston Martin on the inside. But respect to Daniel Jim, I think he lifted out of it and let Rich carry on in position. But Steve Haley, obviously, he's just one position behind Daniel Jim now. There's just Tim Fulbrook in between them, so he'll be keen to get past Mr. Fulbrook, which again won't be an easy thing to do, and then get back on the tail of Daniel Jim.
Yep, so Tim Fulbrook doing the, keeping some HF Impala pride here in 8th position, as he is the BMW meeting an Aston Martin sandwich at the moment, as Jim trying to still go past Emery. You can see the amount of damage that Jim has now got on the right-hand side of that number 71 Aston Martin as they come towards the faster parts of the circuit here at Zandvoort. 27 minutes and 38 seconds still remain, and Rich Smith in the 76 Porsche leading by 5.2 seconds as we are now on to lap number 10. It's been a great performance from Rich Smith, who, for those wondering, what does he run in GT3 Season 3? The only driver that runs the Lexus, the only Lexus RCF driver. So switching to Porsches, because obviously there's no GT4 car. And here is the man himself, speak of the devil, and he doth appear. Now on to lap number 11 as number 76.
5.2 seconds ahead. 5.2, that's an incredible lap, and he's still setting the fastest laps. He went round, his last lap was his 144.7, but his previous one was a 144.4, which bettered his last fastest lap.
So we go on board. Yeah, we go on board now with the 862 HF Impala BMW M4 GT4 of Tim Fulbrook in 8th position, and he's not that far behind Daniel Jim, who is still trying to find his way past Richard Emery, the 115 Audi, for 6th place. But HF Impala have really impressed me this season so far. You know, coming through from the Genettas, which they both ran, both him and Michael Haffenden, last season, Steve, and now they've gone to the BMWs, and it seems like they did with the Genettas, the car has just come to them. They've gotten used to it. They started working on their setups, and they've really put the sim time in, haven't they?
They have, but we've seen, we saw in season 1 when they're in the Genettas, they certainly put the effort in, and they do extract the results sometimes from cars that maybe you don't expect to do quite as well. But I'm just going to put another interesting light on it here. We've obviously got Steve Haley in 9th, Tim Fulbrook in 8th. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Simply Race team are leading the team championship, but not by a massive margin. So with Fulbrook in 8th, Haffenden in 11th, could it be a swap?
As Haley goes up the inside and clashes with the right front, and that was going into the S's there, I believe. So Steve Haley comes back onto the circuit, and that could have been very much a... you ever remember that F1 clash incident between Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll? That was very reminiscent of that.
Absolutely, but yeah,
that had happened.
But absolutely, but I think we could be looking at a team championship change in points after the result tonight, depending.
Yeah, because Michael Haffenden is actually in 11th position, 1.4 seconds behind Yannick Müller, who is trying to go side by side into Tarzan with Steve Haley, and then thinks that discretion is the better part of valour. There's Ollie Giel just behind Mark Randenbury, who started on reverse grid pole, and they have got the number 863 of the HF Impala B team. The sole team member of that as Daniel Jim. Oh, now that is very, very brazen if you want to try and call that one, where he tried to go around the outside of Rich Emery. But in other words, that was very, very fully committed by Daniel Jim. But Rich Emery just had an answer for the outside overtake that he was trying to plan and put into practice there, Steve.
Yeah, definitely. They're all watching the clock, and they're all driving very, very close and looking for that gap. And if the gap's not appearing, potentially trying to open a gap, as it were. But yeah, Daniel Jim will be getting a little bit frustrated now, because obviously he knows he's got the legs on Rich Emery. He's caught him. He just needs to try and get past him, which isn't proving to be too easy.
Well, looks like Jim's going to try and go for the move, and he's got up the inside of Richard Emery in the 115. So now Jim takes sixth place, but Emery fighting back into the very next corner. The Audi tries to go up the inside. Won't happen on this occasion as they go through the S's. But effectively, yeah, with regards to the way things are at the moment, if the race was to finish now, HF Impala A, Steve, would take the lead in the team standings ahead of Simply Race.
Yeah, that's the championship, isn't it? Like I say, we were watching Haley and Daniel Jim for the drivers' standings, but obviously we're also watching Haley and the BMWs for the team championships. So it's all getting a bit exciting with 2 more rounds after this one to go.
Yep, Ollie Giel has been passed by Angus Martin there for 13th as we now go on board with Richard Emery in the 115 Audi R8 LMS GT4, with Tim Fulbrook with both the dip beams and the fog lights ablaze on that BMW, and Steve Haley still trying to chase him down and try and get past as it's differing lines. But Haley looks like he's got a door opening on the left-hand side of Fulbrook, but this particular occasion, once again, Haley is denied the opportunity to overtake as Yannick Müller now in the 143 Audi closing up, and Müller running in the top 10 at the minute, 0.638 seconds ahead of Michael Haffenden in the sister HF Impala A car in the 861. Randenbury, Martin, Giel and Aegis round out the top 15 positions. Mark Neutzelings, I think, has called time on his home race, as he has also is 4 laps down. So both he and Aaron Walker, I think, are not taking any... Well, we know that Aaron's not taking any further participation, I would imagine, with the amount of damage sustained to the front of that Mercedes for Mark. That is definitely, unfortunately, all said and done.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when that happens. In these short races, though, it's very difficult to pit and get back out in a sort of a respected time where you can actually battle and get some points. So understandable that he's pitted and called it a day. The other thing is, if you try running around with too much damage on, it can make the car handling obviously affects that and makes you a bit inconsistent and can lead to further incidents involving other drivers.
So the top 15, as we are now on to the top 3, as we now go on to lap number 14. Rich Smith is now 7.4 seconds ahead of Reese Wiggin, who is a further 8.4 seconds ahead of Adam Isalovic in the 111 Mercedes. So the top three covered by just over 15 seconds. Pixley still holding pride for Yorkshire and for Ginetta in fourth place. Regan Mitchell has been doing a cracking job behind the scenes, and he is closing, it looks like, as there goes the move from Haley on Fulbrook for 8th position. So Steve Haley now trying to see if he can break away from the BMW, but you can see quite quickly there, Steve, that Fulbrook was quickly on the counter-attack, but the Aston Martin now trying to move away into the distance and try and catch up with the 1:15 of Richard Emery with just 21 minutes on the clock remaining.
Yeah, it was interesting to see on the previous lap as well. Tim Fulbrook actually did his fastest lap, which is a 1:45.1. Daniel Jim also did his fastest lap on the last time round, and that was a 1:44.9. So now Daniel Jim's got a little bit of clear air to try and catch Regan Mitchell. He's got the hammer down. Be interesting to see what Steve Haley can do. His fastest lap's a 1:44.6, so he's definitely got the pace. He just needs to get in front of Rich Emery and get that clear air.
And also one of the things is where the server local time is 8:32 p.m. So the drivers are having to worry about the glare as both Haley and also, Fulbrook has a little bit of a clash there trying to go up the inside of Emery, and that puts Emery wide, and that allows Yannick Müller to go up into 9th place. So Fulbrook now getting passed by Yannick Müller this time around. So Fulbrook dropping a couple of places there as they come through the Arie Luijendijk bocht to go onto the start-finish straight to complete approximately another 4.3 kilometres here. But Fulbrook pulling ever so close towards the pit lane wall on the right-hand side of the straightaway as they go through Tarzan. And there we just saw Haffenden just hit the back of Emery, and then Fulbrook hits the back end of his teammates. It was like 3 dominoes falling at once there, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. And teammates clashing is never good, but obviously it was totally accidental. It was obviously, like I say, concertinaed up in the corner there. But Rich Smith doing a fantastic job, 7.7 seconds off in the lead. Rhys Wiggins not having a slow race. He's clear.
Sorry to cut across you there. Regan Mitchell trying to close up on Richard Pixley was less than 0.3 of a second adrift, but he looked to try and go towards the Ginetta and just ran wide. So Regan Mitchell again having problems. He's gone off again, and that is towards the far part of the circuit, if memory serves me correctly. I'm just trying to remember the turn itself. And
that's all playing into Daniel Jim's hands, though, because Pixley had a little bit of a moment as well, and they've both just fallen back into Daniel Jim's hands now. Yeah,
Regan Mitchell is now 0.6 behind Richard Pixley. Daniel Jim right on the back bumper of the Mercedes in the number 69. So this is where it's really, really going to test, and that was coming through, I think, Renault corner there. So it was basically Marlborough as, the two teammates from HF Impala have really thrown themselves a curveball because they have just taken each other out. So that was Fulbrook and Haffenden running 10th and 11th, and that will have dropped them down the order like a proverbial stone as we see Regan Mitchell and also Steve Haley coming out of the Arie Luijendijk bocht. Both two wheels kicking up the dust on the left-hand side, or probably the sand thereof, coming out of the final corner, going down the main straightaway. I'd be interested to see the replay between the two HF Impala A teammates there, Steve, but that is one thing you do not want to happen, especially when they are gunning for the lead in the standings, because now that has given Steve Haley the impetus he needs, and he's only 1.8 seconds behind Daniel Jim, who's trying to get past Regan Mitchell, and now there's Richard Pixley. Let's have a look at the replay. So they're just behind Richard Emery. So Fulbrook goes to one side, and then they're going through the corner. So Fulbrook trying to do his best to try and get past Richard Emery. They're now coming down. I think that might be coming down towards the S's here. So onto the brakes, and now Haffenden tries to go up the inside of his teammate and tanks the right-hand side, and the pair of them spin out pretty much in synchronicity, and that has really given them both a big blow that they won't want to remember, and Haffenden is the one that has lost out big time. 17th position for the 861. So it looks like, with the way things are, with just over 17 minutes to go, as Daniel Jim now tries to force the issue with Regan Mitchell, this is going to be very close between the Porsche, the Aston and the Mercedes, but it looks like Daniel Jim will get the inside run for the second part of the S's, or will he? Because look at Regan Mitchell, he's still keeping it side by side, he's still keeping it pinned as they're going to go through to the Kumo bocht, as there's a little bit of contact between the pair, but that means But Regan Mitchell still keeps on 6 for the minute, but will Jim respond? They're going to come through into the Ari Lindijk with just over 16 and a half minutes to go. Look who's in the backdraft of this. Stephen Haley. He could split the pair going through the middle if he's going to be brave, and he's going to try it. No, he's not. So he actually decided to go towards the inside through Tarzan. But Fulbrook at the moment is the only one of the HF Impala drivers, if memory serves me correctly, by the scoring system we have here, to be the only car out of HF Impala A that could actually score points here this evening.
Yeah, that was Steve Haley was nearly very, very lucky, very opportunistic there, but he just couldn't quite complete the move as Daniel Jim is managing just to stay ahead of him and gap him by putting another car in between them. Because I'm sure obviously Steve is just racing for positions, but he will definitely have an eye on Daniel Jim. His aim would be to beat Daniel Jim this evening, but he's just struggling to get on the back of him. Daniel seems to be able to put a car in between them at every opportunity.
So, with 16 laps in the books, Rich Smith still leads. Rhys Wiggin in second. Adam Misolovic rounds out the top three ahead of Richard Pixley, as we now go on board with Stephen Haley, trying to close in on Regan Mitchell and the number 69 Mercedes AMG GT4. So Stephen Haley just trying to keep the flag for Simply Race Racing Team as high up the mast as humanly possible. He's doing a really, really good job so far, as we are fast approaching the last third of this race, just over 15 minutes to go, and it is anyone's guess who is going to win the battle for what will be effectively fourth position on the road. But the gap, though, Steve, between Rich Smith and Rhys Wiggin, was that 11 seconds I just saw?
It is 11.3, so yeah, I mean, whether Rhys has had an incident, but yes, Rich has certainly kept his nose clean and put the laps in. Interestingly, those two, Rhys and Rich, are in the 44s, and then you go back down to, Daniel Jim in 5th and Steve Haley, the only others in the 44s. Everybody else is doing 45s.
Looks like Mark Neutlings in the 666 Mercedes has come out of the pits to possibly get some track time and just see if he can do anything to help his cause with regards to developing the setup on the Mercedes for the future rounds, because after this we will have 2 more to go, as Regan Mitchell and Daniel Jim still battling away. But here comes Steve Haley. He's absolutely motoring as the number 24 in the Simply Race Racing Team Aston Martin Vantage V8 GT4 as they come through Shivlak.
We just got the tail end of that move, and it looked like Jim had gone very wide into that corner, so that opened the door up for Regan to just sneak through.
Yep, so Regan Mitchell still keeping a hold on 5th place. It has been switching like the proverbial pendulum between the pair, but look, Pixley is leaving the door wide open, but he cuts across the front. He's very entitled to do that, because obviously Regan Mitchell wasn't he wasn't half a car length up the inside, as now we go on board the rear roof cam of the number 7 of Richard Pixley in the To The Stars Media Ginetta G55 GT4. So this is where it's going to get very interesting, and a great view once again by our good friend Mike Yao, and also Simply Race for providing such fantastic broadcast angles. For those wondering, how can we join the community here at the place to race, Simsport Racing? So head to simsport-racing.com. Be a part of the community, come and join us, have a lot of fun, and also learn as you drive and go along. You'll learn a lot from us here at Simsport Racing, but also you'll have the opportunity to have your 5 minutes of fame, especially if your name is Dave Hedges, let's say. Sorry, Dave, I just had to put that one in there.
It's very, very interesting now. Into turn 1, all 4 of them fairly well behaved. No one seemed to manage to gain the slipstream. I was half expecting poor old Rich Pixley to get swamped down the straight by those guys, but he's doing very well in the Ginetta. He's holding his line. He's got, he's sticking his laps in. He's keeping his head down, and he's got 3 very fast cars behind him, all looking to try and make a move. The Mercedes first, and then 2 Aston Martins, and the 2 Aston Martins, let's not forget, Haley and Jim battling for the championship lead. So those two are very keen to put a move on, and Haley, obviously, he's now right where he wants to be and behind Jim. So he'll be looking to try and put a move on him as soon as possible in the next 12 minutes.
Yeah, probably give that another 3 to 5 minutes at the very, very most, I would have thought there. But a very, very clean exchange between Richard Pixley, Regan Mitchell, Daniel Jim and Steve Haley. But just keep your eyes on Yannick Muller in the number 143 Audi, rounding out the top 8, Richard Emery and Angus Martin now up into P10 as a result of the HF and Barlow teammates having a bit of a clash. As there goes Daniel Jim up the inside through into the first part of the S's, but Regan Mitchell back on the inside of the 69 Mercedes. This is where it's going to get very, very close, but Daniel Jim looks to have gotten a nose ahead into the very next corner. Does the 71 take 5th place? He does, but it gets a little tap from Regan Mitchell, who's trying to turn in to try and block. But then this is allowing Steve Haley once again to close up on the two in front as they come out of the Ari Leyendyke bocht onto the start-finish straight down towards Tarzan. And this is where you can really get a counter-attack. So Mitchell tries to go up the inside of Jim. Jim goes to block on the inside of the racing line. And in that, many respects. And I've had a really good... looks like that could be... I'm trying to remember who that is now. James Hartnell, if memory serves me right.
Indeed, if you're looking at
Haley has his head... Yeah, right, this is really good. Haley has his head down, dander up, elbows out, and nose in front. Well put there. Well put there, James. Obviously, you'll see James back in the 168 Ferrari, back at the penultimate round of the Season 3 for GT3 this coming Sunday evening from 7 o'clock UK time, where it's a 90-minute race at Barcelona.
There's no lack of commitment this evening, is there, these guys in particular. We've got Daniel, Jim Pixley, Regan Mitchell, Steve Haley and Muller, as you say, catching these guys up now because they are battling hard. We see Steve Haley trying to go up the inside of Mitchell. I think he's going to make that work. Yeah, and I think yes, he has made it work on the very next corner, so well done by Stephen Haley there. As Regan Mitchell going towards the outside of Daniel Jim. No, it's Daniel Jim on Pixley. And I must be completely honest, Pixley has done a fantastic job to keep in fourth for as long as he has, as Haley now gets back up the inside once again, as Jim nearly taps the back end of Pixley going through the S's, as they're going to head towards Kummerbocht, which is the 14th and penultimate corner here at Zandvoort, before they come into literally the accelerators are going to be pressed hard as they're going to try and make their way through into the Ari Leyendyke bocht. A little bit of camber to the right-hand side. Carry the speed out through the corner as Pixley goes left, wheels onto the grass and the dust on the left-hand side, but he still kept the throttle pinned to the floor as they head down towards Tarzan. Jim looks towards the inside. Pixley closes the door. Steve Haley waiting to strike like a cobra waiting in the reeds. Oh, there's contact between Jim and Pixley, and that allows Haley to get around the outside of the pair of them to take P4. Absolutely fantastic. Obviously, a little bit of contact there. Not quite sure how it started, whether the stewards will be looking at that or not. But Steve Haley opportunistic, and he just sneaked around the outside of Pixley, and I think he managed to avoid contact by going off the track slightly. But he's gained the two positions, and he's up into fourth place now. Well, by my reckoning there, Steve, he still had two wheels on the tarmac, so that was pretty much valid. For what he was able to do, but he had to take avoiding action because otherwise he would have been caught up in the melee. As we now go on board the front splitter of Daniel Jim's number 71 Aston Martin, Steve Haley now trying to break away. The gap between him and Steve Haley was around 0.2 of a second, but if Haley, as James Hartnell said, he's got his head down, dander up, elbows out and nose in front, well, I think if he's got the foot buried to the floor at the right points on the circuit, he's going to get away from this. And there's a bit of a sad emoji face from Daniel Parker, as if to say, oh, that was a real shame. Well, I must be honest with you, we do have like unofficial drivers of the day, and if I'm honest here, Steve, I think Richard Pixley definitely deserves that because he was doing so well up until that point. Yeah, he was doing well, mate. But I think we might have to have a split decision because what about Rich Smith? You know, he's led from early on. He's not, he's not won. I think this will be his first race win if he manages to bring it home. And he's just kept his head down, kept out of trouble, and he's hardly had any camera time because he's just kept himself clean and he's just done what he needs to do. And he's got a 14.371 second lead over Reese Wiggin. As Yannick Muller now goes up the inside of Richard Pixley into Tarzan, up into Devon. As Chris Crossman says, the stream quality looks absolutely amazing. Those new graphic cards really show. Well, thank you very much, Chris. I think it's all, we have to give kudos to Mike Yao, our broadcast director. Fantastic job as always, Mike. He's the one that really showcases what Simsport Racing is about. And it was a real big help with regards to the stream for the 12 hours of the Nürburgring race that we had last Saturday, which was run on a 24-hour server. Good evening, Ed Porter. All good, mate. All good to hear from you as well. And Chris also says, Steve, great to see Rich at the front. Yeah, also just seeing that Fife's in the pits as well. Car's done, retired, as he just put in the chat there. So sorry to hear that, Cameron, mate. I know you've worked hard on the Zandvoort setup, but maybe just couldn't quite keep it on the black stuff, and you got your granddad's bucket and spade out and did some digging in the sand, maybe.
He's probably dug up a few sandcastles and put a few on there. So, but Steve Haley still now in 4th place. And he's now pulling a gap. He's pulled about 4/10 over Daniel Jim in the last couple of laps or so. But Regan Mitchell still keeping in the top 6, 0.834 seconds behind Daniel Jim. He's just up ahead.
What's good about the race tonight, this reverse grid really opens things up for some of the drivers that, shall we say, normally finish in the midfield somewhere. As we've got Rich Smith, I think I'm right in saying it'll be his first win. Reese Wiggin, I think 2nd place will be his highest ever finish. So those 2 guys will really take some confidence away from this race, and it's great to see.
I think also you've got to give credit to Adam Misalovic in the 111 Mercedes. I mean, he's done a really good job. He kept out of trouble when everyone else was sort of like tripping all over each other. He sort of profited where others had either dramas. I mean, you have to feel for Mark Randenbury in some respects, because you started on a reverse grid pole, and Rich Smith literally just went banzaiing around the outside of Tarzan on the very first corner after we went green. And just decided to go, well, I wonder if they'll like this one for some screen time. Well, you definitely got it, as we now go on board with Steam Passport in the 444. Janetta running in 13th place, trying to close up on the number 53 Aston Martin of John Aegis, as we now hit 5 minutes to go in the 4th of 6 rounds of the Simsport Racing ACC GT4 Season 2, being held here at Circuit Park what was formerly known as Circuit Park Zandvoort. It's now known as Circuit Zandvoort, as Daniel Jim getting up close and personal with Steve Haley. This is looking very, very much like it's going to be elbows out very soon here, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really wanting to get that position, because this is for the championship lead. This isn't honours for the podium, as it were. It is for the championship lead, and which will leave us just 2 rounds to go. So these 2 are just fighting for every point, and for the pride of standing on top of the championship at the end of this round. Steve Haley just runs wide there. That's going to compromise him now, and indeed it's let Daniel Jim up the inside. Slight bit of contact now, and it's going to be a drag race to the breaking point, but Daniel Jim is in prime position, although Steve manages just to pull back in front of him. That was very close, but he's given himself back that pole position for the corner.
Yeah. But also the fact is that Regan Mitchell is just keeping his eye on things, and he goes up the inside, not just of Daniel Jim. Is he going to go side by side with Steve Haley going through towards Hugenholtz? That could be the case. Regan Mitchell, if he does this one, that will be an absolute blinder. But Steve Haley not allowing him to try and get past. But Regan Mitchell around the outside of Hugenholtz. I haven't seen a move like that for any sim race that I've commentated on with regards to Zandvoort. But Steve Haley manages to power past the Aston Martin towards Schieflach and manages to keep P4. That was a great exchange between the 3 cars there.
That was absolutely fantastic. That was GT4 racing at its best. Very close, very personal, but has to be said, very clean and really respectful between the guys. And it's a bit of a role reversal now that we've got a car in between Haley and Jim again, but it's Haley that's got the advantage this time.
Yeah, I think Adam Hodson has just said, careful, Roddenberry. Ollie Gill is coming for your backside. Well, I can't use the word that Adam actually used, or in sort of like Air Force terms. Yeah, he's coming for your 6, mate. 3 minutes to go, as still the battle rages on for the last position in the top 5, as that is now being occupied by Regan Mitchell. Daniel Jim still trying to keep on level peggings with the number 69 Mercedes as they come through the S's towards the far part of the circuit. And even though they've been going full throttle here, Steve, for just over 42 and a bit minutes, at this sort of pace that they've been running at, the physical and the mental exhaustion does start to creep in, and you will possibly see the odd occasional mistake. I mean, Daniel Jim running a little bit wide coming out of the Ari Leyendijk box there, but the mistakes do start to creep in, don't they, towards the end of the race?
They do, and of course all the rubbing, the contact, it causes a little bit of damage every time, so the car performance is affected, as we see in Angus Martin now trying to make a move on Rich Emery into the outside of T1, and he does indeed actually drive round, but can he cut it back? No, he's gone far too deep there. Rich has got that back comfortably.
Yeah, and with the way things are at the moment now, Steve, just remind me of the how many of the drivers actually do score points in terms of...
The top 20 will score points.
Okay, so the biggest thing that I'm interested to look at when we go to round 5 is how that is going to affect the championship, because look at where Steve Haley is, and he's now 4th place. Tim Fulbrook 11th, Michael Havenden 17th. I think this is going to be very, very close indeed with regards to the team's championship. But I think Steve Haley has now put himself in prime position with what will be 2 rounds to go. That he'll put himself into prime position, probably at the top of the leaderboard, because Daniel Jim is 2 places behind.
Yeah, but I mean, I think what we've got to remember, obviously, is it's reverse grid all the time. So, you know, when these guys are starting or finishing as high up as they are, the next round they're starting at the back. So Daniel Jim will be in front of Steve Haley on the grid at the next time round, and it only takes Haley to make a mistake and Jim to get a good result, and the championship's back on. I think I'd put money on the fact that this will go down for team championship and drivers championship to the last round at Laguna Seca.
That's in just 2 weeks' time. All that sounds rather promising indeed, Mr. Proudly. Right, we've got 35 seconds of the race remaining, so we will be on the final lap, the 26th and final lap. So Rich Smith in the 76 has literally been untouchable from lights out to checkered flag here at the 4th round of Season 2 GT4 here at Circuit Zandvoort. As we go on board with Angus Martin in the 11th placed 863 AMR with HF Impala BMW M4. And in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, there is Rich Smith. The timer officially strikes 0. He's just got a few more corners to negotiate, and I think you're right that it will be his maiden victory in any Simsport Racing event that he has been in. As now Fulbrook getting argy-bargy and elbows out with Rich Emery, and does the BMW go around the outside? He does, and Angus Martin nearly went through at the same time.
That's a brave corner to go through.
Tim Fulbrook, I doff my cap to thee. Well done. Angus Martin, a couple of corners later, goes up the inside of Rich Emery, who now drops to 11th. And out of the final corner, it is going to be a victory for the number 76 of Rich Smith in the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport here at Circuit Zandvoort. Another race winner, and that was a commanding victory for the number 76 of Rich Smith, as we just wait for Reese Wiggin to make his way round the final corner. The number 667 now crosses the line. It is a Porsche 1-2. So Weissach's finest come across the line first of all, and the gap quite gargantuan as now Adam Isalovic now crosses the line in his car to take P3. Steve Haley did actually close up in the latter stages up to P4. Regan Mitchell takes 5th ahead of Daniel Jim. Yannick Müller, what a debut from that particular driver in the Audi, 7th on debut in the 143. Pixley would take 8th ahead of Fulbrook and Martin, who complete the top 10. Richard Emery rounds out the top 11 as Mark Ranbury, our reverse grid pole sitter for the 4th round of the season, will cross the line behind Steen Passport. Well, that's Ollie Giel actually just up ahead as Steen Passport takes 13th. Ollie Giel in 14th. Mark Ranbury. Then we got Lindsay in the number 44. Then Ranjiv Kelsey in the number 47. Michael Haffenden will cross the line very shortly in around 18th position. I think a bit the pride and also the car have been a little bit scarred in the incident between him and his teammate Charlie Crossland takes 19th ahead of Ambro in 20th. But we had some fantastic racing, and well done to Rich Smith for taking his maiden victory. I mean,
fantastic podium is that, Alex. Absolutely fantastic podium. Those guys, those 3 guys, absolutely awesome. Yeah,
definitely. I think I'm going to do the honours this time. I think with the interview, because I have sort of dropped Steve a few times out of the frying pan and into the fire. But you know, you've coped well with it as always, mate. But we'll hopefully very shortly be speaking to our top 3 here at Circuit Zandvoort. But Steve, just some. You know, that was, I think, hands down. We've had some great GT4 races. That was just another one. It was just a really, really good race. We had some great battling, and I'm really glad that we do have GT4 as part of our program here at Simsport Racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great class of racing. All the guys that are doing it absolutely really enjoy it, and it is close racing. You can possibly do a little bit more rubbing in this class than you can with the GT4s, but you know the guys have proved again tonight. Yeah, there's been a few contacts here and there. The stewards will be looking at some of those early laps, I believe, but generally it was clean racing, a little bit of rubbing here and there, but you know, good hard fought racing. Absolutely fantastic, and some great respect shown as well.
Well, before we speak to our top three very, very soon, let's give you an idea of what rounds are still to go here in Simsport Racing GT4 Season 2. Next week, we head to the Republic of South Africa, to Kyalami, for the 5th and penultimate round. And then we, once again, for our second season, we visited Laguna Seca last time, where my good friend in the virtual commentary box actually took 4th place in the wet at Laguna Seca, and that is our final round on the 14th of October. So, without further ado, I'm now going to head to the interview booth, and I will be back with Steve. I'll be back with you in a moment, Steve, for us to close out things before we talk about Season 3 GT3 Round 9 this coming weekend.
Okay.
Peace.
Well, we've got to talk to some drivers, and many congratulations. I don't think you saw this one coming. An overtake round the outside of Mark Randenbury on the very first corner, and I think we did have him just briefly there, but Rich Smith did a fantastic job there to win by a commanding lead. I think we might need to draw him. Rich, good evening, well done, congratulations on, I think it is your maiden Simsport Racing victory, isn't it? Well done.
Yeah, it is. I hope you can hear me. I think I've just turned push to talk off. Yes, it is. Yeah, it was one I've been practicing a little bit for. To be fair, it's the first, it's only the second ever race I've done on Zandvoort, so sort of a bit intrigued how it was going to go. But I felt pretty good in the car. The race pace was pretty much the same as sort of like hot lapping pace. So I thought if I could just get a bit of fresh air, then and I knew I was starting at the front, that I could possibly do okay. Unfortunately, squeezed through on the first corner with Paul Rees, and Mark had a little bit of a slow start off the line, and just sort of just held it there from their first few laps with a bit of a blur in nerves, and after that just found my sort of rhythm and just kept putting in the sort of reasonable lap times.
Well, especially when you went around the outside of Mark going into the first corner anyway. I mean, that was, first of all, that caught my attention, then you just pulled away and just kept the gap. But obviously from your perspective, we know that you've worked really hard. Obviously the reverse grid races for GT4 Season 2 and obviously Season 1 have really changed the dynamic of what we normally encounter with GT3, where you run in the Lexus. But you must have been really pleased with that effort, so like thinking, well, I know that I'm going to be celebrating with a nice little cold drink after this one, because I definitely need it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's it. I think as each week goes by, I mean, I've not been sim racing too long, to be fair. As each week goes by, I'm getting a bit more experience, a bit more learning. I'm starting to overcome the nerves a bit better, and I think starting to deal with it all a bit better. And obviously, pulling off a win, holding my nerve throughout. I mean, say once I found my rhythm, it was quite comfortable. I certainly don't think it would be the same. Obviously, trying to come from further back on the grid, I've got a long way to go before I'm capable of that, but it was nice just to get that first win under my belt, and hopefully it sort of takes me on, and but it's just, if anything, it's motivation to keep trying a bit harder and pushing a bit harder. So
you had a good dive through the middle, I think, to take the first place.
Well, there we go. But Rich, congratulations. We'll see you Barcelona round 9 of Season 3.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, no, thanks very much, guys. Appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. Reese Wiggin, our second place finisher for this evening here at Zandvoort. Reese, obviously it was a bit of a tall order to try and catch Rich himself, but still a very solid result for yourself in second place, making it a Porsche 1-2. Just give us how you're feeling after the race, and obviously how things transpired from your perspective.
Yeah. For me, it was a good race. It's one of my favourite tracks. So it was a little bit of luck that I finished so badly in the race before that put me up the front this time. But yeah, I managed to keep it together, and I had a reasonable pace. Like you say, I wasn't quick enough to to keep up with Rich. But yeah, I'm massively pleased, and it was nice that Adam got third place, who was a teammate in the 12-hour race. So yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I think also with the fact that you know, you guys put in so many hours, and I really do have to. I do respect and admire every single amount of effort that everyone in the community puts in behind the wheel. But just for those at home, just give us an idea of just how physically and mentally tired you are after a 45-minute sprint race around an old school track in a GT4 car. It is not easy, is it?
No, it's. I must admit, I'm a little bit more sweaty than I normally am due to the position that I was in. But this track's just down the road from me. It's one of my favourite tracks. So I was hoping I could keep a reasonable pace up round here. But yeah, it is. It's surprising how tiring it is to get through it. But yeah, it's still brilliant. I'll do it again tomorrow straight away. Marvellous.
That's what we like to hear. That's the spirit there, Reese. Well done. Congratulations. And enjoy a good, well-earned night's sleep this evening, mate.
Yeah, I shall do. Thank you.
Okay, we now go to Adam Isalovic in the 111 Mercedes. You kept yourself out of trouble. You managed to secure third place, so many congratulations. How are you feeling after getting a top three in this race here at Zandvoort? Not easy.
Thanks, Alex. I feel great. Congrats to Reese and Rich. That was awesome seeing them on the top two places. I was fine. After 12 hours of Nürburgring, this is easy. So I was just trying to keep calm and consistent, and I was watching the times that were Mr. Haley and Daniel Dream were behind me, so closing a bit by bit. So I tried my best to have enough distance at the end of the race to the third place. I knew that my MG wasn't the best at Zandvoort. I loved the track, but Reese and Rich were just too fast.
Well done, Adam. Congratulations on third in the race, and have a good evening, mate. And we'll see you on Sunday for GT3.
Thank you very much, Alex.
This Sunday.
Thank you. We'll see. Bye.
Okay, last but by no means least, we have got him here in the interview booth. Steve Haley. Wow, that was a spirited drive. And what a battle between Daniel Jim, Richard Pixley, and Regan Mitchell. But you came out on top there, Steve. Fantastic job, mate. But really good to see that how close the GT4 battling has been all the way through Season 2.
Yeah, good evening, Alex. That was probably the closest hard-fought GT4 race I've had yet. It was very close. I was obviously Daniel's the kind of main championship rival so far, so I was trying to either finish one spot behind him or beat him. It was going to be a tall order, but yeah, it was a great race. Great race.
Now, obviously, one of the other things that we do need to discuss is obviously the team standings, because you guys came in 8 points in front of HF Impala A. The pair of them actually came together during the race, which sort of, I think in some respects, might have helped you guys out a little bit, because they finished 11th and 17th. So Tim Fallbrook was the highest placed finisher out of the pair of them, Michael Haffenden in 17th. So I know that Aaron hasn't had the best race, obviously retiring very early after a massive incident that caused the front left side of the Aston Martin to be so badly damaged that it was not worth repairing, and effectively retired him from the race. How are things sort of within the camp? Obviously, I know it's going to be difficult going to the penultimate round next week. But how do you feel in terms of the camaraderie that both you and Aaron have, despite the fact that he's now got to pick himself up and effectively play the team game, because he now knows that the title is not up for grabs for him this time around, being the defending champion?
I mean, obviously we've been teammates for a few seasons now in the different categories. Aaron's a very fast driver, and he's very well measured as well. I'm sure he'll pick himself up and dust himself down and give it his all. We speak pretty much every day, and we're on the track pretty much every day as well. So, I think. I don't know, we'll hope for a result for him for the next race with a bit of luck, and then see how we get on.
Well, Steve, great drive today, mate. Well done. 4th place this evening, and look forward to catching up with you this coming Sunday evening when we go to Barcelona for the penultimate round of Season 3 GT3, mate. Well done tonight.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Cheers, Alex.
Cheers. Well, Steve, some great comments from all our drivers. Really, really happy to see how elated Rich was, and also Reese and Adam. But then to hear from Steve, obviously, the fact that Aaron knows that he can't go for the title. Steve is effectively de facto leader going in with 2 rounds remaining. It's still all to play for, like you said earlier on in the broadcast, that the teams and the drivers' championships won't be decided until the final round at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that Tim Fulbrook and Mr. Havenden will come back fighting at the next round. Kyalami, the BMWs will probably do reasonably well there as well. So the team championship, as we say, is still wide open. And that drivers' championship, Daniel, Jim and Steve Haley just showed tonight that they're up for the battle. And let's not forget, I think if you ask Steve Haley which track he dislikes the most, it's Zandvoort. So for his what he would say is his worst track, that's a fantastic performance for him. But the final thing I would say is that that podium tonight, that would have to be one of my podiums of the season so far. I think those 3 guys, absolutely fantastic drives. All 3 of them kept the noses clean, just kept going, and they're not the 3 guys. Although Adam has had a win in the GT4s in the previous season. They're not always on the podium, and great to hear from them in the interviews. And you could hear Rich Smith was bubbling over with excitement. It was absolutely fantastic. Just one of my favourite podiums, that I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, mate. I mean, a fantastic job by everyone that I spoke to in the interviews, but also everyone that was out on the circuit. We saw some great racing. I mean, Yannick Müller in the 143 Audi. Another driver that I think we need to keep our eyes on. So good job, Yannick. Well done there, finishing the top 10. But for those wondering, how can you get involved with Simsport Racing? Well, we are, as we say, the place to race. Head to simsport-racing.com for our official website. You can find our social media links there. So we do have a Facebook page. We also have a Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram, along with our website. You can also find on there our Discord channel, so you can join the fun and learn, but also have great racing, as you have seen here this evening. But Steve, our focus and attention turns to the penultimate round of Assetto Corsa Competizione Season 3 GT3, which gets held. It's a 90-minute race at Barcelona this coming Sunday, October the 11th, starting at 1900 UK time. I'm so looking forward to that one. That is going to be an epic encounter there.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome race at Barcelona. Again, we always say it, but the guys are practicing hard. They're putting the lap times in, and it will be a hotly contested race. And it is the penultimate round. Nothing's finalised yet, so positions are still up for grabs. And the guys will be battling hard for the points to take them into the final round 2 weeks after that at Paul Ricard.
Yep, October 25th is when we crown our Season 3 GT3 champion. So, on behalf of myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and also my good friend Steve Proudley, thank you very much for watching. We will see you all 1900 British Summertime this coming Saturday, October the 11th, for the penultimate round of Season 3 GT3. And just to whet your appetite, there might be a little bit of something to showcase for you just before we go. But thank you very much for watching, and good night, and stay safe.